So Ketu, in order to understand Ketu, of course, everybody knows Ketu represents everything psychic, metaphysical, astrological, spiritual. Okay. And Ketu is also weird and strange, like Neptune. It's weird, it's strange, it's illusion, deception, as well as film and photography, and oil and gas and magic. All those things are very slippery. How on could you imagine? I mean, the concept that the human race would be able to make pictures is just beyond me. That's Ketu. You know, photographs and movies, magic, Ketu. So Ketu is, on the negative side, Ketu is 10 times worse than Rahu. A planet next to Rahu gets bruised. A planet next to Ketu gets lost in a black hole. So Ketu is either going to be on the negative side, illusion, deception, confusion, cheating in marriage, cheating in finances, or it's going to be psychic, metaphysical, intuition, film, photography, etc. But there's one thing that you really have to understand Ketu. In order to understand Ketu, you have to have a good grasp of the nature of existence. So in the beginning is the absolute. The absolute, or consciousness, was never born, and it never dies. The universe, not the universe, but the consciousness, awareness, consciousness, nothingness, everythingness, whatever you want to call that underlying nature, was never created and never gets destroyed. It simply is. And the world is born, this dreamlike world that has no independent nature. It's just a puff of smoke. It's a dream. The world is born. It goes on for millions of years. It gets destroyed in a ball of fire, and then it's gone. But the awareness or consciousness that holds the worlds that keep getting created and destroyed, the awareness or the consciousness, that simply is. It just is. So you have to understand that in order to understand Ketu. Because a person that has Ketu right on the ascendant, a person that has Ketu very close to the sun, the moon, or the ascendant ruler, that person is very real. They don't like bragging. They don't like showy things. They're very real. And the reason they're very real is because Ketu is the astral plane. It's the other, it's like the world from where we were born, from where we came from. We came from awareness or consciousness and then got born into this materialistic dream-like existence. But the person with Ketu on the ascendant, or Ketu with the sun and moon, they're still stuck there. So they actually, life is more stressful for them because they're still in the spiritual world, but they're trying to make their way in the material world, and it's difficult. So Ketu in the first house, and again, it depends on how close it is to the ascendant degree. If it's 10 degrees away, it's Ketu in the first, but it's different than Ketu right on the ascendant. So Ketu in the ascendant is going to be a person who's attracted to film, photography, oil, gas, magic. They're going to be able to make themselves invisible when they need to make themselves invisible. You know, if there's a situation, they can make themselves invisible because they're already invisible. They're part invisible anyway, because Ketu is so strong. And Ketu in the first will make a person drawn to astrology, psychic, metaphysical. It'll make them intuitive. They've got one foot in the world and one foot still in the spiritual world. They're shy, introspective, and fearful, But if they go toward enlightenment, they don't have trouble with the ego. So if they go toward enlightenment and they suddenly hear your body and your thoughts and your feelings, they're just a dream, they're an illusion. They don't go crazy. But you tell somebody who's very worldly, you don't even really exist. Your existence comes and goes. It has no effect on anything because it's a dream. They go crazy. They can't let go of the ego. But if you have Ketu in the first, you don't have that problem. Ketu in the second, it's going to mess up the family life, as we already said. Ketu in the second, you could make money with oil, gas, film, photography, magic. Ketu in the second, especially if it's aspected badly with malefics, you could cheat. You could make money through illegitimate means.
So why do you give cheating and photography to Ketu?
Ketu is of the other world.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So if I take a book, this is of the physical world. It's you get it from a tree. You get the book from a tree, and then you get the pages, and then you start to do the work on it, or the cup. It's of the world.
Well, correct.
Okay. A photograph is a bizarre concept. It's so otherworldly. It's not.
Yeah, understood. But most of them.
And then magic. A person goes like this, and they pull out a quarter. Where did that come from? That's Ketu. That's otherworldly. It's weird. It's strange. It's hidden. Ketu. When Ketu's in the first house or with the ascendant, you want to know everything that is hidden, that is underneath.
Okay.
So Ketu in the second, if it's badly aspected, you could be cheating with money, or you could be cheated, It's illusion, deception. If it's well aspected in the second house, then I would say that you could make money from film, photography, magic, oil, gas. If it's well aspected by Mercury and Jupiter, Mercury and Venus, you could have a very sweet speaking voice, and you could have knowledge that would be spiritual knowledge. If Ketu's in the second house, in the house of knowledge, aspected by benefics, then your knowledge would not be the same as being a walking encyclopedia. It would be knowledge of astrology, knowledge of Ayurveda, knowledge of feng shui.
Hidden knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. Ketu in the third house. My brother has Ketu in the third house. He got a Ketu younger sibling. That was me. So I have my ascendant ruler Venus is 1 or 2 degrees away from Ketu. Now, for him, he had a younger sibling who was weird and strange, not worldly. It was not comfortable for him. And then at some point I got into astrology, and it was still weird and strange, but it was specific. First, it was, who is this weird kid? He's afraid of this, and I was very fearful, extremely fearful as a child. And he had no fear. And he's like, what is wrong with this guy? I say, come on, jump over this body, this little canal, jump over this, and we'll go and we'll see the fish. And I'm afraid to do it. To him, it's like, what's wrong with this guy? Weird, strange, fearful. Then I got to be 25, 28, and then suddenly he's metaphysical and psychic. So that's what it does for your younger sibling. And his Ketu in the third is aspected by his Venus in the ninth. So his younger sibling was Ketu, but in a more successful way. Because of Venus. Yeah.
Venus.
Yeah. So The Ketu in the third house is good for it's a malefic, so it's good for giving determination. It's good for giving willpower. And Ketu in the third house, if there's any artistic desire, tendencies from the horoscope, Ketu in the third house is going to be, when you're saying the person's going to be an artist, because of whatever, Venus in the 10th, or the 10th ruler in the Dasamsha in the third, you see an artist. You see an artist, and then you see Ketu in the house of the arts. You don't predict singing. You predict film and photography. Ketu in the fourth house, you get a lot of people with Ketu in the fourth house where the mothers were crazy. Not all, but Ketu is weird and strange and fearful. It's going to go to the mother. If Ketu is in any way well aspected, then the mother's going to be spiritual, metaphysical, like that. Ketu in the fourth house. I have Ketu in the fourth house. I think I had it in a Brigu reading that I had. And it said the ending of his life will be spiritual. It said something like he'll be, forget how it said it. I can't remember the words. He'll be like a sadhu, but also worldly or something. But it was saying specifically the ending of my life would be on the spiritual side because of Ketu in the fourth. Ketu in the fourth house, I can tell you from great experience, termites in the house, mold in the house, water leaking in the house, cars that have problems that are hard to diagnose. This is Ketu in the fourth house. Ketu in the fourth house is the heart.
Yes.
I came into this world. Part of it was the ascendant ruler Venus being right next to, if anybody actually wants to see, that is the horoscope. So you can see the Taurus ascendant, and there's Venus right next to Ketu, right next to the 12th ruler Mars. So right from the start, in my heart was more of a spiritual energy just from the start. Endings can be weird. You know, everything might go smooth, and then the ending comes and it could be weird or strange because of Ketu. Yeah, but it does give spiritual, metaphysical, and the person could live in an ashram. They could have spiritual activities in their home. I always felt comfortable teaching meditation, teaching astrology in the home. Some people they said, I'd never let people come in my house. And I said, why not? It's, you're going to teach them metaphysical. So in the home, spiritual, metaphysical activities. Ketu in the fifth house is going to be a little disturbing on the peace of mind. It'll make the mind very psychic and very intuitive. But it'll also be, the mind is constantly wondering this and wondering that's not so comfortable. Children will be more on the spiritual, metaphysical side with Ketu in the fifth house. Investment-wise, the fifth house is investments. You could invest in oil or gas with Ketu. Children, now if Ketu is not well aspected, you could get children that have mental problems, weird, strange. They're still, they can't get a grasp of the material world, the children. So they could still be stuck in the spiritual, metaphysical world. On the positive side, the Purva Punya is connected to psychic, metaphysical, astrological. You see a lot of astrologers and metaphysical professionals with Ketu in the fifth house. Yeah. The mind is always wondering what's really going on, what's making this happen. And they're psychic and they're metaphysical. And oftentimes I see Ketu in the fifth house in these people's charts. aspected by Jupiter, aspected by the full moon or any moon, aspected by Mercury. You'll see, or Mercury Ketu in the 5th. Those are wonderful for the psychic metaphysics. Ketu in the 6th, the person gets knowledge of Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, acupuncture, herbs. You get knowledge of spiritual, metaphysical. You're not going to get a traditional doctor. You're going to get someone who wants the alternative methods of healing. Ketu in the 7th, you get a lot of people with Ketu in the 7th where the partner was cheating, where there was illusion or deception. The partner could be spiritual, they could be metaphysical, but Ketu is a malefic. So if there's no bad aspects on the 7th and no good aspects on the 7th and nothing going on with the 7th ruler, Ketu in the 7th is almost certainly going to bring illusion, deception, drugs, alcohol into the marriage. The only way that Ketu in the 7th does not bring illusion, deception, alcohol, drugs into the marriage is if Ketu is well aspected by Jupiter, by Venus, by the moon, something, by Mercury. Yeah. Ketu in the 8th, it's again terrible for family life, but it's very good. It's extremely good for psychic, metaphysical. I think Rahu in the 8th is probably better for longevity than Ketu. It's hard to say, but Rahu is a worldly planet, and the 8th house being longevity, which is a worldly matter, works pretty good. Ketu in the 8th, I have to say, Ketu in the 8th, I think, is probably connected to people that are able to say at a certain age, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm closing my eyes and I'm going to leave. They can do it. Whereas other people, they may be, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to die. I'm ready to go. I don't like this illness. I just want to be gone. And they're stuck. They live another 2 years. I suspect that a person with Ketu, I've not had a tremendous amount of experience with it, but the symbology is very likely, especially if they hit a Ketu Dasha and they're ready to go, they can just, I'm ready to leave, and they just leave. I don't know. But it's great for astrology, Ketu in the 8th. Ketu in the 9th is not so good for father, not so good for father. But it also means the person is likely to go after gurus that are hidden, gurus that are shy, gurus that are introspective. A person with Ketu in the 9th does not go to see Sai Baba or the Dalai Lama. There's too much. There's 10,000 people around them. They don't want that. They want a guru who is introspective, shy.
Quiet place.
Ketu in the 10th, John Kennedy had Ketu in the 10th house. And I thought, what is that? It's not a spiritual career, but there was confusion in the career. Confusion. He really wanted to be, he wasn't sure what he wanted to be, but he kind of wanted to be what his son became, which was in journalism. Kennedy's son had a magazine called George. And I think that John Kennedy probably would have been in media, had his brother not died. His elder brother died in the war. His elder brother was being groomed to be the president.
Yes.
But he died, and then the next thing you know, you're the next one. So that Ketu kind of spoiled what he really wanted. And it brought confusion of the career. Ketu in the 10th is great for a spiritual metaphysical career. There's no question about it. But the Ketu If Ketu is well aspected, then you could have film or photography as a career, oil or gas or magic as a career. But if I see Ketu in the 10th, I start looking for a spiritual career, metaphysical career. If it's not a spiritual metaphysical career, most of the time it's going to bring confusion. I don't know what I should do. Should I do this? Should I do that? I don't know. Ketu in the 11th house, the eldest sibling may be weird or strange or drugs or alcohol. The major goals and desires could be spiritual, metaphysical, with Ketu in the 11th. The person is absolutely, positively going to have spiritual, metaphysical friends. They're going to gravitate towards friends that are spiritual, metaphysical, weird, or strange. Ketu in the 12th, hard to say, but I would say that it's a good placement for moksha. It's a spiritual, metaphysical planet in the house of moksha, so I would say it's probably good for that. That's Rahu and Ketu.
Ketu. Amazing, sir. I learned lots and lots from you today. Generally, I give photography to Rahu, illusions to Rahu. That's what we have learned. So now I'll start checking on charts. What's happening?
Oh, I'll tell you from my experience, illusion, deception, confusion, drugs, alcohol. You have to understand probably where you got the concept of Rahu is from the texts, from the books.
Yes.
So when I wrote the ancient Hindu astrology, in 85, of course, I didn't know a lot. I went by my teachers, I went by my books, I went by my experience as well. And I said the meanings of Rahu and the meanings of Ketu in the book. 25 years later, when I updated it, I said, Rahu is this, Ketu is this, Ketu is this. And then I had a separate section for what the textbooks said. But I left out the things that I found were blatantly wrong. I wouldn't say, illusions. I wouldn't say that for Rahu. It's not my experience at all. Rahu is power. It's worldly. It's the most practical, worldly. Something that is practical and worldly and cravings and desires is not connected to illusions. That's Ketu. Anyway, so
yes.
There's always going
so to be a different point today, a very different mistake. And I hope people.
You have to go by your experience. If you
correct.
Yes.
Yes.
But I have to tell you that astrology is incredibly difficult. Incredibly difficult. It takes decades. It took me decades to actually let go of concepts that I had read or that I had believed from my own mind, and I had to let them go. It takes, I have this sutra in the book about Lee Harvey Oswald killed Kennedy alone. There was no conspiracy. Why is this important? And it's important because for 25, 30 years, I had read all the conspiracy books, and I was convinced, I would have bet you my life that there was a conspiracy. And then there was a book written by Vince Bugliosi. He was a prosecutor that I think he never lost a case. He was a brilliant prosecutor, and he wrote a 1,000-page book. He spent over 10 years writing this one book, over 10 years. And because he said history has been distorted by these conspiracies. I read 100 pages of the book and I said, oh my God, I was deceived. And I realized there's a completely different, it's completely different listening to people make their theories and their concepts versus a prosecutor who uses nothing but evidence. Okay. And so you know, you use what you find that you experience, but if you're skeptical, you need to be a great astrologer. You have to be skeptical of the other person and that person and this person. You have to be skeptical, because when you find that you're not accurate, you say, well, why am I not accurate here? If it happens enough, then I say something is wrong. That, you know, that's why I went back to India the second time. I practiced astrology for a year and a half. And I kept having, you mean this is not true? What I said is not true. They go, no. I said, I got to go back. I went back.
Amazing. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for this.
My pleasure.
I hope people will enjoy the session. It was totally out of the box. So many of my misconceptions have got cleared. As you are saying, taking Rahu in houses and Ketu, I was visualizing the charts that I know very well. Yes, I found them to be correct.
You have, but remember, you have to look at all the aspects.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. But if you want to see Ketu as illusion, deception, drugs, alcohol, just find a chart with Ketu in the 7th house.
7th house.
Without a lot of aspects. You will see. You will see.
Yes, definitely I'll try to find such a chart. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Viewers, this was a great session with James, sir, and we all love his teachings. Please go and watch this session. I will put it in 2. I will put the Rahu part, different part 1 and Ketu part 2.
You could even do it by the time factor, because Rahu went on very long. Maybe.
No, sir, then people will be curious. Oh, I have Rahu in the 12th and you have stopped in mid-between. So we can do it in 2 parts, Rahu and Ketu.
All right, however you like. Okay.
No problem. And that was a great session. Friends, do comment in the comment box about your Rahu and Ketu positions. We would love to hear your feedback on this. Thank you.
And one thing, if they want to email me, if they have some particular question, they can email me directly. I don't go into the comments. I've said this a million times. Because if there's 50 good comments and 1 bad one, I can't get it out of my head. But if they email me with a question, I'll answer it.
Sir, on my channel, all the comments are very good. There is no bad comment. I can tell you that. And yes, I will definitely give the link for all his books and his website. It will have his email also. So you all can email sir with your questions, with your feedback. That would be a great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.